Hi, everybody, and welcome to another TapRooT TV. I've got with me Barb here today, and we're going to be talking about the new 3-day course. This just came out. We've been working on this course for a little while now, and a lot of people have been getting introed into this course this year. We're going to be, by the time we have the summit, we'll have trained over 1,000 people in this course.
That's amazing.
It's pretty crazy, and you know, to me, this has kind of been my baby because we did a lot of development in this course. What do you think? What do you think about the course, Barb? You got to teach it twice now?
I did. It's a great course, but there are a lot of differences, a lot of different challenges that I really didn't expect.
Yeah, and so when we set out, you know, we were looking early 2020. COVID's going on. We started pushing out our courses. You know, we were doing basically what everybody else was doing. We were in that early year scramble to figure out, you know, what was our plan. And at the time, we didn't have a virtual option. We looked through it and we said, we're not certain if virtual is going to provide that training experience that we thought everybody needed and what people expected when they came to a TapRooT course. And so, you know, we said, let's trial it out. Let's do a test run of a section, and it was pretty interesting. Mark wasn't a believer at the time. He wasn't certain that you could teach virtually and be as engaging and be as effective. So we had to do a trial run. And you know what he said to me? He said, look, we're going to do the hardest section first. If you can teach the hardest section out of the course, then we can try working on the rest of the course. So he made us challenge. Ken Reed and I sat together. We mapped out what ways we could do. And there's a couple different challenges that you really need to expect between the 2-day and between the 3-day course. And you know, our development process was, how do we make it engaging? How do we make sure it's effective? And how do we make sure that the students are learning what they need to learn? Right. So we started out with engagement, and this course has a lot of different stuff. You know, we've got those quizzes and stuff. You know, what for you was like the biggest difference when you were going through that certification process?
Well, one of the biggest difference for me, you're talking about engagement, and I know that's a real concern of Mark's because that's kind of what makes TapRooT training great. You just don't sit there, but you're actually participating. So making the participation meaningful was the challenge, but the way that the course is set up, it's a little bit easier. But you have to remember that when people are taking virtual training, they may be sitting at home or they may be sitting in their office. And so if they're in in-person training, their colleagues aren't coming in, their boss isn't coming in and asking them to do things. But virtually, you have that additional thing to deal with where they'll turn their camera off because they need to talk to one of their colleagues, or you know, their coworkers don't think anything about coming in and interrupting them during a virtual, as they would never do that in an in-person training. Yep. So that's fun.
And that's something as an instructor, you know, we teach all of our contract instructors at TapRooT, everybody that teaches the course for us, either internal or our contractors, they went through a recertification for this course. They had to do an observe, they had to do a co-teach, and that process was for their benefit, so they could see what we were doing, because there's new material in this course that's not in the 2-day, because we retooled things to try to say, okay, this section works in person because of these different factors, like the intro, the marble game.
Yeah.
You know, the marble game is, some people don't understand the value of it because it's about breaking up the groups, getting people together, getting people conversing and thinking about problem solving and thinking about a challenge in which they didn't succeed and they failed and there was a problem. Well, how do we fix that problem? So the marble game teaches a lot of those things in an interactive way. But we can't do the marble game online.
Right.
We can't do that. We tried some different methods for it, but we couldn't do that kind of virtual element the same way. So we had to retool our intro. We had to change it up to say, well, okay, what can we do with virtual people in order to get the right reactions from people? Because when you're in an in-person course, it's really easy to engage with people and have conversations and stuff and build relationships. But in the virtual environment, you have to be very direct about it as an instructor. And that's some of the things that we cover when we do certifications for this course, is what are those different engagement techniques. I think my favorite phrase that I taught you when we did our certification was, you know, raise your hand if you can answer this, or raise your hand if you can tell me. And those techniques that we use to develop that physical reaction of our students, that's different than what you would do in a class, because generally you can ask a question in a class and somebody will raise their hand, they're instinctive on it. But in a virtual course, people's first behavior is just to watch, like they're watching a Netflix video or something on there, but you've got to get that engagement. So we do a lot to do that. We've got interactive quizzes. We have, we still have all the same good exercises and good material, but the interactiveness is a lot higher in that course for that intentional reason of making that one-on-one connection with the students.
Yeah, and I liked how we can still have people break out in groups and work on things. I wasn't sure before I taught how that would work out, or how you can actually put people in different rooms, but it worked out really nicely to have people break out like that.
Yeah, and our development plan for that, I mean, it started off with, we did that initial trial run, and then we had a couple select clients who we had a very long relationship with that were desperate for training. They were like, look, we've got lots of people, we have to do training right now. It's in our standards, it's in our requirements. And so we were able to pilot that out with them. And one of our biggest concerns was always that aftercare portion is, we could see the results in the 2-day course, we could see those things, but in a virtual, you may not be able to build that same relationship that you do getting to have dinner with somebody or getting to sit down during lunch and chat. So we put in place an aftercare process. So originally in the development, that was like, we had four weeks of aftercare that we were doing with students. It was one-on-ones. We did 2 group sessions. We did an audit of their practices. So that was the early development stuff, just to see how well this course did and how well the students retained it. And that's backed down quite a bit. Now we just do, we have some aftercare where they get one-on-one coaching with a system improvements instructor. And so that's the benefit of kind of, these courses, is you get that aftercare opportunity. So, any of the students that I teach, they can bring the next time they do their investigation, they can call me up and we'll go through it. And that time is built in there to have that one-on-one relationship with that. That's really one of the ways you can build that additional relationship with students. So we've done a lot with that aftercare portion of it as well. Are there any things else that you noticed was like a different challenge when you were teaching it for the first time?
Well, sometimes there can be technical difficulties, and you have to be ready to roll with that. You have to know a little bit about how that works. But I found out that it's achievable, even if you are having problems with the internet that day. You can overcome that.
we set up with ours. We have a checklist that we go through at the beginning for the process, and there's a lot of like handout material and stuff that we do in this course as well that students don't. They don't require it. It's in their book. They have that material and stuff when they're in person. But in this course, we want to make sure, hey, there's digital copies available, because sometimes a student may not get their books in time, or they may not get the materials in time when you're teaching virtually. So you've got to learn how to handle those things, and we've got processes in place for all that kind of stuff that we teach. And so there really is a difference, not just from a materials perspective, because there is different materials. There's a different book. There's some different sections in that course, but also there's a difference from an instructor perspective of what do you need in order to be successful as an instructor in a virtual course. And so that toolkit is something that we developed through our process of teaching all these students, certifying different instructors, and going through that process. And I think it's a really unique thing, because I think the biggest disservice would be to just take the 2-day course and do it through a Zoom meeting. I don't think that would give the best results to a student, and that's why we did all this process and development and work, and really created, while a lot of the material is the same, it's really a different course, and it feels like a different course to teach it.
Yes, I agree. It does feel very different, but I have the same feeling at the end that the students they get all the TapRooT tools, they understand how to use them, so. It's very successful. Yeah,
the quality of the snap charts and the quality of their investigation at the end is really, I've enjoyed to see that, which is really, that was our end goal, is that the quality matched up and was equal or even better than the standard, and that's been the end goal. And I know we've achieved that result, and that's been my favorite thing about this course, is seeing the success of it and seeing the success of our students.
Yes, I agree.
Well, you got any other things to add about that course, Barb?
I love the course. It is very different. It does have a different set of challenges, but you all did a really great job, and I know you put a lot of hours in and blood, sweat, and tears into it, but it came out great.
Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about the virtual 3-day, its differences, the certification processes for it, and anything like that, if you're interested in those materials, you can reach out to us at info@TapRooT, or you can contact whoever your SI contact is and reach out to them, because there's a lot to learn about that course, and it's a really great opportunity for, especially if you're still working in a virtual environment for your company, it's a really great opportunity to get some excellent training for your students.